Arise, all you comrades. Welcome, comrades, to the Trotsky Morning Wood here. And of course, we are affiliated with the Workers of the World.
Mm.
And we,
Unite.
yeah, we do film reviews, but film reviews for the people.
Mm.
And we are reacting. Sorry, I'm Clive.
This is yeah, I'm Ron. Yeah, this is great start. This is going really well.
Yes, fantastic, smooth,
Mhm.
just
Mhm.
like the
I just
Soviet.
keep going. I want to see where we're going.
Yeah,
Where
well,
we
no,
go.
that's all the
Yeah,
Soviet stuff out the way.
I think if we were actually in a union, I would have just left. I was like, fuck this shit.
Yeah, but a few hours later, I'd have put an ice pick in your head. So
Yeah, that's true.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so we're reacting to Hani Korsen, right? Which was a bit of a
Right.
hot mess of a film about a
It
workers'
was.
uprising, and
Hmm.
turns out we both kind of reacted to it with doing another couple of workers' uprising films.
Mm.
And
Right.
I'll warn you as well in advance, my next choice is going to be another workers' uprising film as well.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, so we both chose one each. As for me, I went for the 1924 Sergei Eisenstein kind of landmark of cinema, I guess, Strike, um, which I had never seen before. Have you seen it before?
Nope. Oh, you've
I
never seen it before, really?
no, I only knew Eisenstein from for Battleship Potemkin, right? Like most
Right. Hmm.
people, which of course is a very interesting movie. But Strike, yeah, I never got around to it, and I thought, oh, this is the perfect opportunity, right? Give it a go. And it is, almost. We'll get into our subjective opinions, but objectively, you can't really argue that it's not a very important part of film history, right? So I
Sure.
think it's
Right.
it's a film that people who are interested in film history should
Mm.
take a look at, right?
Right.
Because it's so yeah, so it is vaguely based on a real workers' uprising um,
Mm.
in pre-revolutionary Russia, and it's set in 1903. And yeah, that's it. It's basically a film about some factory workers rising up against their oppressive. I mean,
Mm.
cartoonishly oppressive.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
this is not a subtle film, I would say.
No.
It's not a
That's
subtle
sure.
film,
I
and that's
mean,
okay.
not many silent films are subtle, I guess, right? I mean,
No,
that's
yeah,
the point of the silent film kind of era was about being a little bit more exaggerated and stock characters just because they needed to communicate more without the language or the
yes,
sound, right?
yes.
So it's all yeah,
And I think, to be honest,
visually.
it's a skill that it's a skill set that is still kind of valuable today, right? And you see some
Mm.
modern actors sometimes, and you think, "Fuck, they'd be good in a silent film." Like they're just very
I
expressive.
mean, like, I wish they just shut the fuck up, right?
Well, some people, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's
Yeah.
interesting is that there's always pros and cons, right? And yeah, the whole
Right. Yeah.
50s Brando method thing brought us some great things, but yeah, also at the same time, you just think, oh, for fuck's sake, just go, huh? And be done with it, right? That'll do. It depends
Right.
on the film, and yeah, we can
Yeah.
mix
Yeah.
and match at this point of the game, right? You don't have to come down
Right.
hard on one side or the other.
Sure.
But there definitely is a lot of lessons to be learned from silent cinema. I think you could
Mm.
pair a lot of modern films. I mean, I was the thing that struck me most watching Strike was just how modern it seemed, right, in terms of its
Mm.
editing and
Mm.
montage. And other than it's black and white and you can't hear anyone talk, I mean, it doesn't seem like sluggish and slow, right? It's a very
Mm.
dynamic piece of work, right?
Yeah.
It really races along, and Battleship Temkin as well is very much the same. I suppose the tricky thing with this one is finding something to say about it um,
Mm,
personal about it, right? Like I was trying to like formulate a personal take on it, right? And it was
mm,
quite tricky because yeah, I'm afraid I'm gonna have to be quite boring about it. And from my point of view, I was just extremely impressed from the technical point of view, and
mm,
yeah, it certainly wasn't difficult to watch or a chore. It was, and some parts were really impressive, like when the police are riding like horses through the slums and that stuff. I was thinking, fuck,
mm,
this is like something out of like a Jackie Chan film or something. Like it's really
mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
just
yeah, yeah. With different like
impressive.
levels and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, so stuff like that was really great. The only other thing um I thought was kind of interesting that I don't hear people talk about much, which I is how much of an influence this must have been on Fritz Lang's Metropolis, right, which came out like
Right. Hmm.
3 years later. Um,
Hmm.
and you don't hear much really spoken about that, but it seems this
Hmm.
must have been a huge influence on that film, right?
Mm.
And Metropolis, a kind of obviously a, a masterpiece, but I'm wondering, you know, this really lay groundwork for it to build on, even though it's kind of a different film in terms of
Mm.
it's a slightly more stylized and there's lots of sets and stuff and in that very German
Right.
way. Um,
Hmm.
but anyway, I'm very interested. How did you get on with Strike? Ah, before you answer, I've actually got a book here about
Mm.
Eisenstein's writings, 1922 to
Mm.
1934, given to me by our friend Tim Harris.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
many years ago, he gifted me this. And same
And does
fellow,
he talk
Joe,
about?
Josh Brolin with a fake
Oh
mustache.
yeah, it does look good. Yeah, yeah, sure, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so
Does he talk about this movie in there? Have you
he
read it?
does. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's one of a few volumes of Eisenstein. I mean, there's a there's a great picture actually in here of Eisenstein, which I think kind of yeah, clearly the man was a laugh riot, right? I mean,
Yeah, you
he's
can tell from his
serious
work that he,
looking
yeah,
gent.
he's a real nice guy.
But
Yeah.
I did read some of the stuff just now actually while I was having a bath in preparation
Mm.
for this. I have to admit, it's a bit. I didn't glean much that I could bring to the. It's
Right.
very dense, and it's also it's there's a famous essay in here about montage and stuff. And the thing is, this stuff is important and it's grounded, but it's become the norm now, right? Like
Right.
stuff
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
introduced is now
Mm.
second nature, and it's quite interesting to
Sure.
see
Yeah.
you go back to that time and hear people talk about it and you think, oh yeah, that's interesting. Actual thought went into that
Hmm.
juxtaposition, and because it wasn't common knowledge, but now we think cinematically, right? So
Right.
yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Anyway,
Mm.
how did you get on with Strike, Grant?
Well, I don't know that I'm going to have much more to say than you did, to be honest. Yeah, again, the same thing. It's historically significant, but I mean, and yeah, technically speaking, from that point of view, it's pretty impressive and like really like the scope. I mean, it was kind of similar. It reminded me in some ways of the other when we did the other silent film, um the general, was it the general?
Ah, yes, yes,
Yeah,
Pacific.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, and in that it was like like you can't believe they did that at that time, that they were able to do a lot of this stuff,
Right.
right? So especially yeah,
When was
and
that
this was
film? I can't
even
remember. Is that 1926, maybe?
maybe around there, yeah. And
Because
this
that,
one is
yeah,
in
in its
some
own way, that's
yeah,
yeah, 1926. In its own way, that's
yeah,
just as revolutionary as this, right? But it's
right, yeah,
interesting
yeah.
you bring it up because they're actually kind of quite different as well, right? It wasn't just
Well,
like
they are, but I was going to say is that this one is more impressive in a way than that one. I mean, that one we were talking about how impressive it was that they were able to do those types of things at that time,
yeah.
whereas this one is more impressive in a way because it was done in like where he did it was probably a lot more difficult to do this type of thing than it was maybe in America, right? So, um,
Well, it is
you
pro. I mean,
yeah.
that's the thing, though. It is very
Mm.
pro revolution, right? So I'm not sure if
Mm.
I'm pretty sure he would have got the backing of because it is. the story of the uprising, right, of 1919. So
Right. Sure.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
But anyway, yeah, and it was I think also larger in scope in general, right? I mean, there's a lot more things happening, a lot more
right.
people involved, and um, and I mean, it's hard to really kind of have any opinion one way or the other about a movie like this, right? It is what it is. You can't really it's not really about your subjective feelings about it. It doesn't really matter what you
Yeah.
feel about it one way or the other. It's was like, well, it's cool for the time, but of course, as you said, a lot of this stuff is well done over now by now, but of course
Hmm.
not at that time. I'm sure it was quite impressive. Interesting that it wasn't more kind of famous. I know a lot of people aren't really when they think of Eisenstein, doesn't this one doesn't come up right usually. So
As much as
it's not
Potemkin.
one
Yeah,
of
yeah.
yeah as much yeah. So it's not one of his more well known ones, which considering it was one of his it was his
It
first
was his
or
first
second,
feature
I
film,
think.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah, first, yeah. And the fact that you're able to do this with your first feature film at that time was,
It's
I
pretty
mean,
impressive,
again,
right?
impressive, but
Imagine this
yeah,
is your
keep saying that word
debut.
over and
Like,
over again.
holy
But
fuck. Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah.
It is
But
one of, yeah,
I,
I never thought about it that, there's a good point. I never thought about
mm,
it. If you're making a list of like the great debuts, it's
mm,
certainly up there, right? It's pretty
yeah, yeah, sure, yeah,
assured. It seems like someone who's been making this stuff forever, right? Like it's very good.
sure, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, if you want to talk subjectively, I personally prefer more of a story, I guess, whatever. I mean, or a character. I think maybe it might be more. I mean, it's really almost propaganda in some
Oh, it
ways. I
certainly
mean,
is. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah. Right, as opposed to, I mean, um, you know, I find things like this easier to get into when it has like a character you can follow or like a specific, of course there's no characters
no,
that
not
you see more
really.
than two or three times on screen,
Yeah.
and again, as you said, it wasn't really subtle or nuanced. It was very like
No,
over the top,
no,
exaggerated, which I don't know. I'm wondering if it worked against it in the long run. I mean, if it was, I don't know. I'm
no.
not sure historically the how successful this movie was in terms of what it was trying to do.
I mean,
Um,
for context, we should say, I mean, the two scenes in particular, I think, is the one where, all because all the kind of heads of industry in this film, they're
yeah, they're all
all
like giantly fat,
they're huge.
giantly
They
fat. Yeah,
smoke
yeah, yeah,
cigars and they
yeah,
recline.
yeah,
And
yeah,
there's like a scene
yeah,
where
and
one
they
guy's squeezing fruit, right? And see you squeeze it and you
yeah,
get the fruit. And then
yeah.
during, there's a police raid on the slums. It was very cinematically extremely impressive. But they cut to like slaughterhouse footage, right? I was like, just in
Yeah,
case you were in any doubt.
yeah. I'm
Uh,
not sure.
right.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, but I mean, it was a fun watch. I'm glad I was able to see it. But again, I don't know that I have anything to add
No,
to
no, that's
the,
fine. I mean,
yeah,
I'm glad you
about
got on
this,
with
right?
it.
So
And
yeah,
I'm assuming you're in broad agreement with me as well that if you are a kind of a cinephile, you should probably take a look
mm,
at it, right? Just so you
yeah.
know. Yeah,
I'm sure this is watched in many a film history class.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah. So, but
And I think that's
yeah.
important, not just to know, but I think it's
Hmm.
important. I mean, the film's 100 years old, right? And I think if you
Mm,
asked
yeah.
most people, what do you think a film 100 years old looked like? I mean, I don't think they would think of something this dynamic looking, right?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's
Yeah. It
good,
was.
I
I
think, to
mean,
remind ourselves.
dynamics. Yeah, a good word, dynamic, but it was almost like sensory overload sometimes. It was
Yes,
just like
yeah,
there's no like time where it kind of like slows down. It's just like
no,
it's always like
no,
bap, 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 always, and like so much like almost like the MTV generation, 80 years before that happened, right? It was just, like everything was like just constantly shifting, and you like what's happening and who is
yeah,
this? So it's yeah, it was very like ADD
yeah.
before
Which is interesting
ADD,
because
they knew ADD existed, right?
you can just imagine some film professor showing this to his students and banging on about how important it is, and then a student might show them, like video in the 80s of the latest, and they'd be like, "Oh, this is crass, this is terrible," and you're thinking,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
you're not,
It's
yeah.
yeah.
So no, that's
So and yeah, I'm
definitely,
sure you can see a through line at least between the two,
yeah,
right? So, but
yeah.
it's
So
yeah,
so that I
but
find that very interesting. That in a way,
mm,
yeah, it's a extremely populist form of cinema, right? But
right, yeah, yeah.
I guess because it's the freshness of it still comes through, right? Like you can feel,
Hmm.
oh, this is something that people are like. I can't imagine what this would have played like in 1924. It must have just seemed,
Yeah.
this is like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So
okay,
yeah,
there we go then.
and it was only like I mean, it was only like less than 20 years since like what was it the famous when basically the invention of the video camera, right? Where it was like
Yeah,
the
it's less
yeah,
than
yeah.
30
I
years.
mean that like
Yeah, I think it's
isn't it like the famous story
1895.
of like where they filmed the train and the people ran
Yes.
out of the
Yeah,
theater
yeah,
because
yeah,
they thought
yeah.
I was like that had to be within like 20 years of this movie being made, right? Which is
Yeah, no, no,
again
I
more
think
even more
it's,
impressive still, right?
you start getting very, W.D. Griffith and people like that. They start making fairly complex things involving cross-cutting and editing, like
Mm, mm,
maybe 10 years ahead of this.
mm.
But yeah, no, this is definitely another level
Yeah,
up again, right? So, but
right,
it is
yeah.
fascinating to go back, because I think a lot of people just cluster stuff from that era together and they don't bother to
Mm,
think about it. But there's progression just like there is now, right? Like,
right, yeah.
um,
Hmm.
okay,
Yeah.
anyway, there we go. Let us step down off our soapboxes and move on to the
Oh, were
next
we?
film. What you got for us, Ron?
Okay. So I also went with a union uprising socialists kind of thing of workers, right? Revolutionary workers, and I went a little bit of a different path because we had gotten into a Japanese cul-de-sac. I think we talked about right where we were trouble getting out of it, right? So um,
Oh, I wasn't
so
keen
I
to get out
decided
of it,
to
but
just go. No, I know I was okay doing it, but I was wanted to try something different, right? So,
no, no,
and
fair
it
enough.
occurred to me that as I was looking at some other things. I was considering doing like um I would say originally I was going to look for movies that because I was going off of that scene in Kaneko-sen where they try to kill themselves
Oh
and
yeah.
but the boat rocks and the other thing and the kind of like the comedic suicide kind of thing like the kind of the dark comedy which
Hmm.
so I was actually
A new
originally going to
Japanese
find
versions of
something that
that.
has sort of like yeah. Well, I was gonna find yeah, I guess. But I was gonna find I was gonna look for a movie that has like sort of like approaches like humorous approaches to suicide or something.
Okay.
Um
I'm
but then
guessing you
as
were
I was
thinking
looking and
Harold and
different
Maude or something like that, or
that was on the list, but I hadn't I don't think I was gonna choose that one specifically, but things like that. So I was originally gonna go in that kind of area. And then I said, oh well, and then you sent me yours, and I was like, oh okay, that's kind of interesting. Maybe I can also go with the socialist idea. And so then I was also looking at what was that one? Something about Lenin. Um uh the I can't remember the name, but anyway, but something about Lenin and I or something, or does that sound familiar?
no,
Like,
oh no.
no. Anyway, it's got the anyway, doesn't matter. Anyway, so but then as I was looking at lists of sort of like union uprising or worker uprising and stuff like that, I was like, it occurred to me that that we've never, I don't think in 10, I mean, we've done this show for what, 10 years or something, right? I don't think have we ever done a musical other than Little Shop of Horrors way back at the very beginning?
Well, we did in Little Shop of Horrors, and we've also done International Gorillas.
Was that a musical? I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, maybe,
you don't
kind
remember the Batman and
of.
Robin sequence?
Yeah, but yeah, that was like one sequence. It's not the whole movie, right?
I think there must have been other song and dance numbers in it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I wouldn't have considered it a musical. But anyway, any other movies that were like primarily musicals?
Was
None that I can think of. Anyway,
do you remember we did the Hindi Hamlet film?
right.
Did that have song and dance numbers in it?
I, I mean, usually they do, but
Yeah,
I
but
don't
it might not have
remember if it
had
did
that
or
one.
not.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So anyway, the point was that we haven't done a musical, many musicals, and not for a while. So I can't remember actually. Like I know we were of the same mind with Little Shop of Horrors, but
Love Little
I'm
Shop of
not
Horrors.
really.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what your kind of stance on musicals in general is. So I thought, oh well, let's and um recently and on Broadway has seen this sort of like uh resurgence of taking older musical or not necessarily old movies and then making musical versions of
Right.
them and putting them on
Right.
and they become famous again. Um so I chose the 92 Disney movie Newsies,
Mm.
which recently has seen a resurgence in its popularity. I mean, it sort of like flopped at the box office, I believe, and then
Yeah, I
became
think so.
famous, kind of like popular over like the video rentals. And then just recently it's been, put onto Broadway with a new musical on stage, and apparently it's like super popular. So, and
I actually
actually, to be honest, I've
mentioned
never seen Newsies.
I'd actually mentioned this. We were doing this to our friend Nick, and he's actually
Oh.
seen the stage musical.
Oh, has he?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. I've actually never seen any versions of Newsies, so I thought, oh, I might as
But
well. This may
right.
be a good example for me, time for me to see it because
Sorry,
I
I
like a good
cut you off
musical,
there.
and so
You said that you hadn't seen this film before.
no, I had not.
Ah,
I've never
interesting.
seen
Okay,
this
I
movie
had
before. So
assumed it was
so
an old favorite of yours, but
no, I've never seen it, and I've never seen the stage musical either. So I thought, oh, it's time that I thought I could finally see it. So, which is again surprising that I haven't seen it because I usually liked movies like this around this time. So, especially in the 90s. But I know it's very popular. I know a lot of people love this movie and this musical in general. So I
I
thought,
have to
oh,
admit I didn't have much context for it. I vaguely remembered it coming out. I remember the
mhm,
title, um,
mhm.
but I haven't really encountered anything about it since it came out.
To,
So
to be completely honest,
yeah.
I was so unfamiliar with this, other than knowing that it was popular and it was a musical, that I actually didn't know it was even about a strike. So
Ah, okay.
until I found it on the list of movies about strikes. So I was like, oh, okay, well, here's a good opportunity for me to see this. Just like
Yeah, yeah. There's
it was
no
a good opportunity.
faulting your selection process. That's for sure. It's
Sure.
legit. Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, this was 92-ish, starring a young Christian Bale.
Hmm.
I'm not sure, was he famous? Was it the movie that made him famous, or was he
I don't know.
already famous from
He'd been
something
in
at this point?
Empire of the Sun, right? But
Right. Yeah.
5 years previous. But I don't know how much of a name he was, other than oh,
Mm,
that kid from Empire of the Sun, right? So,
right. Mm.
and I don't even know
Although I
how
will.
much of this actually made his name, really. Like if people knew the name of
Right.
this, I don't know.
Right. Well, I mean, he is like the clear lead of the movie, so
Yeah.
it must have gotten him some attention as well, even though it wasn't a particularly big hit at the time. Um, but also, just putting other things in context, years ago when we did American Psycho,
Hmm.
it actually put that movie a little bit into context for me by seeing this because I didn't really know that Christian Bale could sing or dance.
Ah,
So
of course, because he's
that
too
whole
hip
scene,
to be square.
this exactly the music. I remember being like really impressed by his dancing in that movie. Like, oh, how did he learn how to do that? So obviously he's has a
Yeah.
dancing
I
background to
mean,
some
if we're
degree.
talking about
So
films that put him, that is probably the film that actually did make him a household name more, right?
yeah, I guess
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, but anyway, so has Christian Bale and Bill Pullman, Robert Duvall, and Margaret. As along with some other kind of character actors who kind of pop up here and there. Is a huge cast of millions, I guess, right? So,
It's funny
uh,
about Bill Pullman. I was watching this film and I was thinking, because I like Bill Pullman. I think Bill
hmm,
Pullman's actually a very good actor. But he does seem to have fallen into a bit of a ghetto at this. Like he's the benevolent guy who looks on
uh,
at a distance with an approving eye. Like Bill Pullman
yeah,
seemed to do
that
that
is
for years, right?
yeah. That's
And
yeah.
it's a bit of a shame because
I wonder if this is the movie that got him
I don't
that
know, but
kind of
he
role. I don't
really
know.
I've always
Yeah.
really liked Bill Pullman, even since
Yeah,
I saw
yeah,
him
yeah.
in Serpent and the Rainbow, which I think,
Right. Yeah. So yeah,
right, yeah.
I love him from Spaceballs. So I think we've had that
Oh,
conversation
of
before.
course,
But
yeah, he's a nut as well. Yeah, but
yeah,
he's
yeah.
an actor with great range and stuff. But yeah, but
Mm.
a film like this sometimes does seem like I understand why they cast him because he's good at doing that, you know.
Doing that. Yeah,
But
yeah.
it does seem like a like he could do that in his sleep, right? Because he just seems
Sure.
like
Yeah,
such
yeah,
a.
yeah, yeah.
I'm, I'm sure he must have done somewhere in his career, but I'd have to look at the filmography. But he strikes me as one of those actors that's so ripe for like, oh, everyone loves Bill Pullman. Let's make him a fucking horrible villain, right? Because he could pull it off and no one would expect it.
Yeah, I think yeah. I'm sure he has in
I'm
something,
sure
right?
he must have
Exposure.
done by
Yeah,
if
yeah,
not,
yeah.
someone's got to do that, right? Someone's got to make him
Right,
like
right,
the most disgusting, horrible man in the world, and it would be really effective,
right.
I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, and Robert Duvall plays a little bit of a kind of a similar caricature to these kind of like fat rich guys in from Strike, right?
Yes,
So,
well, specifically,
yeah,
he's a Pulitzer, isn't he?
he's Pulitzer, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, yeah, and so anyway, so it's I guess I heard loosely based on a real strike as well from like 1901 or something
Already?
on
Oh, yeah, yeah, you're right. Yeah.
that's
But in the
yeah,
film,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
1889, isn't it? In the film.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah, but I think it was loosely based on one that actually happened or something.
Okay.
So I mean, very loose, I'm
Yeah,
sure,
no, no, it
right?
is
So
a definite true
yeah,
story. I mean,
mm,
I'm
mm,
sure, I was surprised actually looking at it. I assumed there would be, and I was primed almost to choose it as my next choice. I thought, oh, there's got to be another
mm,
film based on this that is
mm,
less musically, right?
right.
But there doesn't seem to be actually. This is the only
Oh
film
yeah,
as
yeah,
far as I know. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So
unless there's some
so,
really
but
obscure
I guess
films I don't
it
know.
says historically, I guess in reality the strike actually failed. So maybe that's why, because I think when they actually did it at the time, I think it didn't actually go anywhere. So maybe that's why no one told the story because yeah, it doesn't.
Maybe, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Of course, this version, of course, as most Disney movies do, it gives it a Disney
shit.
ending, and then they all happy and everyone gets exactly what they want, and they're
Yeah,
all like sing and dance off to the sunset,
yeah.
right? So,
We'll
but
get to that because
um,
that's kind of one of the
yeah.
slight problems I have with this film. But carry on. Yeah,
One of yeah. So, yeah, directed by Kenny Ortega.
yeah.
I don't know much about him.
So
I don't
you
know if
mentioned in
he.
the cast as well. So one person I was
Mm,
really pleased to see the
mm.
old geezer who runs like the flop house they stay in, Matt
Uh-huh.
Lawrence, and he's been
Okay.
in films since like the 1940s. Um,
Right. Okay.
Really interesting guy because I know him well just because Psychotronic magazine happened to run an interview with him in the 90s, and
Mm,
it's a fascinating career interview. He has since passed, I believe. Um, but we'll be talking about him on our other show, Septic Shock Road Trip, at some point when we get to California, because he directed
mm.
one very weird horror film called Pigs, starring him and his
Pigs.
daughter.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. But he's
Okay.
you
Great.
know, the elderly, kindly guy in the flop house
Mm,
you see at the beginning
right.
waking him
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah, Matt Lawrence.
Yeah. So, in a quick summary, is basically these are all newsboys. You know, the extra read all about it kind of guys,
Do that again, Ron.
and extra read all about it.
Wow, you'd
Yeah,
be an awesome
I could have
newsie.
been a newsie. I would have been a great newsie back then. And yeah, and so at the time when this is set late 1800s, is that these boys would have to go and purchase with their own money a certain number, I guess a certain number
Yeah.
of papers that they chose, and then they had to go around and sell papers and would collect the money, and then they would get a profit, or they would
Yes.
be able to make money back from what they
This is
sold. And if
New
they
York City as well, you forgot to mention.
New York City, yeah. And if they don't sell, then they have ended up eating the cost, right? So,
Yeah,
and so and it's all child labor and before child
yeah.
labor laws and that kind of stuff, right?
Also, a job structure
Um,
I'm very familiar with from my brief time selling shitty CD sets door to door when I was starving
okay,
in London many, many years ago. Yeah.
CD sets, really?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. We had these, this is
Yeah.
like just 98 or, yeah, 1998. And
Mm.
basically we had these, they were like you get five CD sets and they'd be like the best country and western, or the best reggae, the best jazz. And most of them were re-recorded by other bands. They weren't the originals, which we
Yeah,
didn't
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah,
And you had to go around and sell these door to door. I fucking horrible, horrible. Yeah, you get a commission, right? Same with these kids.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then if you you had to go in the early in the morning and you had to listen to fucking speeches like motivational speeches. We all had to
Uh,
dance around going juicy, 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 juicy.
why?
I
Why?
don't know. And then at the end of the day,
Juicy? What does that have
if
to do?
you sold enough
You weren't selling
CDs,
juice though,
I
right?
don't know. You sold enough, you got the juice, man. Then you sold enough CDs that you got a certain commission. You had to go in and you had to pick up they had a bell and you had to ring the bell and then everyone else would come in the room and you all had to do high fives and go, juicy, juicy. It was fucking horrible.
You need to
Easily
have
the
a.
worst
I
job
need to
I've
see a
ever had
movie
in my
about
life.
that job. That's great. Yeah. And so, but of course, you had to buy the CDs yourself, right?
No, we didn't have to buy them,
No. Oh,
but if
okay. No.
you had to keep the money, right? So and then when you
Right. Yeah.
gave most of the money back, and then you'd get some
Right.
of it. And
A
what
little bit.
happened
Yeah.
occasionally on the mean streets of London was I remember one guy got mugged and
Uh.
his whole bag of CDs was stolen, but he was
Uh-huh.
still expected to pay for the loss.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there we go.
Oh.
Congrats.
Mm.
The ugly
Yeah.
face of capitalism
Yeah.
once again.
Juicy, juicy.
Juicy, no. No, thank you. No,
Juicy. No.
horrible,
No.
horrible job.
Wow, yeah. I vaguely remember a job similar to that. I didn't do it myself, but my friend did this job, which is even more sketchier than yours. And I remember I went in to interview for it, and then I got to the interview, and I was like, "There's no way I'm doing this job," right? So, which
Or
says a
smarter
lot
than, or
because
less
yeah,
desperate than me. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And this particular job was going same thing, going door to door, but selling knives, right?
Ah.
So you would actually have like a set of knives that you would go door to door and try to sell. But you would, and this it was the case like this where you would actually have to purchase the sets of knives,
In
and then you go and
advance.
sell them, and then
Ah.
you would get the money back, right? So you get an advance, right? So and my friend did this, and he was like kept bugging us to come over to our house and to sell us knives and stuff. And I was like, fuck no, it's like you don't come into my house, and like so you'd have to go to like strangers' house with knives. I was like,
Yeah.
what a terribly
Yeah.
thought out
You
idea,
hope you
right?
bump into Patrick Bateman, right? And he's
Yeah, right.
I remember
So,
one quite weird story. There was a one guy, he was Australian and he was staying in like a youth hostel or something, and
mm,
and he started doing the job, and he started coming back a few days in a row, ringing the bell, juicy,
uh,
juicy, and I was like,
yeah,
oh wow, okay, he's doing really, really well, and they used to pair people up now and again, like, oh, you're not doing well, go with this guy, and so
uh,
a friend of mine went with this Australian fella, and he'd been going to the same place again and again and again. And it turned out he'd like targeted this like little newsagent run by this little old woman, and basically he'd be going in and fucking threatening her. Like he'd be going, "You better buy my CD sets," and she'd hand over her money, and he'd be coming back. And then after a while, the family got involved and the police were called in. But basically, yeah, he was just threatening this old woman to hand over her money for CD sets she didn't want. And I'll be fucking back tomorrow. You know, I met a lot of weird psychopaths in that job. Yeah. And he
it
really
also
liked
sounds vaguely,
this
yeah.
Australian guy was really he was like, oh, come on over, come to the youth hostel, we'll have some beers. He was like really, really okay. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I do attract
Also,
strange people.
mm, sure, yeah. It also vaguely reminds me of I guess selling coffee, what Malcolm McDowell selling coffee.
Oh, lucky man.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
was
yeah, lucky
definitely
man, yeah.
better
So
at that job than any of us.
yeah, yeah,
Because he's
yeah, he's
Malcolm
right.
McDowell, right? And he's got a fucking
He's got a
gold
gold suit
lame
on, right?
suit. Yeah.
That's what the newsies were missing. They all should have gold suits
Yeah.
on, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
They're all in
So anyway,
rags.
so back to Newsies. So so anyway, again, the fat cats, who are the evil guys, of course, in this case, it's Pulitzer himself,
Yeah.
decides
And
that
Michael Lerner, right, is the guy who hands
Michael
out.
Lerner,
Yeah, who's always
right?
good
Yeah,
value for playing sleazeball,
sure. Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. Sleazeballs, yeah. And so Pulitzer decides that he's going to raise the price by 10 cents. Was it 10 or I,
Something like that.
was it
I
something
forget.
like 10% or something like that, right? So which is, I mean, already these kids were basically starving and they're basically Fagin's gang,
Yeah,
kind of thing. But
yeah,
yeah, yeah. But yeah, so they're doing their best, and yeah, this would be basically make them all go out of business and starve and whatever. And but of course, for the fat cats up in their offices, it's just it's a cent. What just a penny? What are you talking about, right? Led by our intrepid hero,
Mm.
Christian Bale, decides to go to lead all the newsies all across New York on a strike, and so they have to kind of go to different areas of New York and to kind of recruit them and get them to join them in their strike,
Including
so that
I don't know his name, but Vinny from Doogie Howser as one of his pals, right?
yes, which one? Oh yeah, yeah,
Vinny
yeah. One of
from
the
Doogie Howser, isn't it? Right?
Vinny. Oh, okay, yeah.
He's less
Maybe.
foul-mouthed in this one, but
Oh, I think I know which one you're talking about. Yeah, I
yeah.
can't really remember. I only remember Neil Patrick Harris. I don't remember who else was in there, but there is one guy, one of the kids there that I noticed in lots of other kind of character writers. So maybe
Okay.
that's him. Yeah.
No,
So I think
I
maybe
only
I'm talking about.
recognize him just because he's basically just doing Vinny from Doogie. You remember Vinny from
Sure.
Doogie Howser MD, right?
I vaguely, but I remembered one of the actors, and I think that's
Yeah.
probably him, right?
He
So
was Doogie
I didn't
Howser's
remember.
friend who was always like, because the thing with Doogie Howser MD, I remember when it was out. I didn't really watch it that much, but I watched it when it was, and there was I remember the thing about Doogie Howser MD was, it was a little bit risque, right? One of the main
Right,
reasons was his best friend Vinny always asked him like weird, inappropriate questions, like because he's a surgeon or whatever the fuck, and he'd be
right,
like,
right,
do you shave down there like before that kind of thing, like he was a
right. Yeah,
curvy
yeah.
little teen.
Pervasive, right? Yeah. Um, so they also in the story is there's a two new kids who have just joined the kind of so there are
Oh
kind
yeah,
of our way in, played by David Moscow and Luke Edwards. I don't really know them from anything
uh,
else after this, but so they're in Luke David Moscow playing David Jacobs is sort of like he becomes sort of like the golden boy, like they're a little bit more educated, I think, than the rest of them, and so they've kind of joined because they're helping their family out with money, as opposed to the rest of them who are maybe just making it for themselves. And so they're kind of like this kind of you know stand up
right,
hero because they're doing it not for themselves but for their
right. So
family
a
and
lot of the
kind
kids
of
are
stuff. And
orphans anyway,
yeah,
right? They don't have
yeah,
families.
they're all
Yeah,
yeah, they don't have families. They just do it, um, so yeah, and so he comes in and he becomes also kind of one of the faces uh, of that, and so they kind of all join together and they go through various, basically it's like kind of like West Side Story, but with newsboys, kind of like where they're almost like
yeah,
rival
yeah,
gangs, and then they
yeah.
kind of join up
It's quite
and
epic in
uh,
its scope. I will give it
yeah,
that.
it's
Like in
very yeah, it's very
terms of
big. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's a
It's
cast,
not
as
just
I said
a few
originally,
people dancing in the
cast of
foreground.
thousands.
It's like
Yeah.
layers of
Yeah.
people
Yeah,
dancing.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
So the choreo, I mean, and I believe the director, can you take it, was a choreographer. So that's probably why
yeah.
it's
He's a.
quite
I think he started off
dancey.
as a music video director as well, right? So
Right,
yeah,
right. Yeah. So yeah.
since
So
and
it's
since
quite
he's directed a whole bunch of
mm.
huge hit films that I've never seen. But yeah,
Oh, really? Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. And so yeah, so anyway, it's quite impressive in scope in terms of like the crowds all dancing in
Yeah.
unison and that kind of stuff, right? So um
It's old school. It's an
generally
old
speaking,
school musical, isn't it? It's like,
yeah, it's
yeah,
really like, yeah, it's like a classic, like the consider yourself Oliver Twist kind of kind of stuff, right? Yeah, and then of course, it fails, and then the fat cats push back, and da da da, and then they tried, and then Christian Bale kind of betrays them
yeah.
and
Or
sells out,
classic
and
old
then
techniques, right? Like
yeah,
separate,
yeah,
divide,
yeah.
and conquer, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
Serene Conquer, yeah, and also they basically they were beating up all the scabs and stuff, and so then they sell, they bribe Christian Bale to kind of betray them, and then he gets all dressed up and he becomes a scab and stuff, and then realizes the error of his ways and goes back to it, and then leads them to
and
victory, and then they
sing
get everything
songs
back,
about
right?
it all the way as
And
well.
sing songs.
Let's not forget.
Exactly,
Yeah,
yeah. So
yeah.
so that's it in general. So how'd you get on with Newsies, Clive?
Um, yeah. So always with these things, I know you don't believe me sometimes, but I generally try and give things a fair shake. And you said Newsies, and I was like, oh, okay. And I looked it up, and judging by,
Mm,
never review a film you've never seen. Obviously, that's cardinal sin,
yeah,
right? Keep an open mind.
right,
But obviously,
right.
at the age of 45, not my first
You
rodeo. So
kind of know where you're gonna get, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
As soon as
So
that
I'm looking,
Disney kind of thing comes up
yeah,
at
so
the
I'm
very beginning,
looking at
you're
it and I'm
you're
thinking,
already you already have this sort of preconceived
I'm just
notion
thinking,
of what you're gonna watch, right?
I know I'm not going to like it. If I like this film, it'll be a miracle, right? But
I said that it was I said as the Disney thing. I actually didn't even realize it was a Disney movie until I started watching it. And then
all
the
right.
Disney logo comes out at the very beginning. And I was like, Clive is gonna hate this.
To be honest, though, at this point in my life, all those Hollywood logos drive me up the wall because they're
I'm
all
sure.
so bombastic, right? Like
Yeah,
da
yeah, yeah.
da da, boo, boo, ba, 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 ba,
Boom, boom, boom,
ooh,
boom, 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 boom.
planets and shit, and you're thinking, calm the fuck down. Like they all annoy me at this point. Anyway, um, yeah. So I kind of think, okay, I'm probably not going to like this film, and I'm open-minded. I might like it. So let's put that aside and let's
Hmm,
see, like, let's try and analyze maybe why exactly. And yeah, no, I
hmm,
didn't particularly enjoy it, I have to say.
hmm,
I yeah, I mean, I think it's to do with a few things. Like, so for instance, you mentioned the scope of it. The scope is impressive,
hmm,
but they're not necessarily the choreography isn't particularly interesting, like the dance choreo.
hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, yeah.
And then also, yeah, the Disney, obviously you expect the Disney, so they're street kids, but you don't see much in the way of squalor. They seem all right.
No.
It's like the
Yeah.
kids
Yeah,
sleeping down
they're
for the
they're
statue.
they're Disneyfied orphans, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
no.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's there's no the edges have all been sanded off and all that. But again, I
Yeah,
expected
sure.
that. Um, I don't know. I think it's something to do with music. Like, so it's not that I dislike musicals. I like some musicals, but I like certain types of musicals, and I think this fits into the category of musicals that I don't like. And I'm not I'm not educated enough in to
Mm,
explain, so I might be wrong about this. But I think it's that kind of Rogers and Hammerstein.
mm.
What's the Mikado guys?
Oh, the isn't that is Roger Hammerstein, isn't it?
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That very broad, and Stephen Sondheim, like
Mm,
that type of musical. Um, and I think I figured out what it is. I think it's because the musicals that I do like, and I like a lot of like Bollywood stuff and stuff like that. I'm quite happy to watch
mm,
that stuff. It's because I like the music. I like the music. Like I like that
mm.
orchestral kind of Indian style
Right.
musical, or
Right. Yeah.
things like Rock and Roll High School, for example. I like the Ramones and I like punk music and stuff like that. But when you come to
Hmm.
this type of musical, the music itself is not music that I would listen to.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? So
Hmm.
whereas I appreciate,
Ah,
yeah,
sorry, just to cut you off. Sorry, just I just wanted, in case people are yelling at the screen right now. Gilbert and Sullivan.
Gilbert
Sorry,
and
I was
Sullivan.
wrong.
Yeah, there we go. Of
Sorry,
course.
sorry, I was wrong.
Yes.
I was wrong. I was wrong.
But like, so for instance, when we were doing Cannibal the musical, I
Mm,
appreciated that because it was such a spot on, like the songs in that are exactly
mm.
these kind of songs, but in parody form. So
Right.
I appreciated that
Sure.
because there's the parody element. But then this, I don't know what it is. This, so the music, like if I wasn't watching I would
Mm,
never listen to music like this.
sure.
Like it's the most boring music in the world to me,
Mm,
actual music. And then I think I don't really like musicals that, like, I quite like musicals where people burst into song and it's all not unrelated, but people burst into song like it's an addendum, like, oh, now we're going to burst into song, and it's like a music video or something. I'm not a big fan of musicals where the song is like telling you the story. So, like, for instance, like, and Christmas music, oh, what
It
a
should
right
though. I mean, that's the
to
purpose of
this.
a musical though.
Well, a
That's the
certain
purpose of
type
a
of
song in a
musical,
musical.
a certain type of
Uh,
music. And I think that's the
yeah.
thing is, I think this type of musical is not my cup of tea. And the music itself isn't like,
Mm,
for instance, if it was, I don't know, if it was like, I don't know, a type of music that I liked, that might be
mm.
different. Like if it was, I don't know, really good reggae music or something, like I could enjoy it, right? But this kind of instrumentation is like, I'm not. This is not something I'd listen to on my headphones or in my car. Like it's
Yeah.
someone might like it. I'm not dissing it, but it's just not
Mm.
my cup of tea.
Right.
And before, I'm kind of actually quite interested in this, and I don't know your opinion. You might dislike this film as well. I
Mm.
don't know, but the music in this film, is it music that you enjoy listening to?
Well, it's interesting that you were talking about that because that's I think maybe you hit on it exactly, which is that musicals are special in that they approach your emotions or not attacking your emotions, but so accessing your emotions through a different way, right? Because music in generally is quite emotional, right?
Hmm.
So we have emotional connections to music, and the sounds of different music can make us feel different emotions, right? And it
Mm-hmm.
to more than just saying someone speaking can do, right? So I think it's a part of our neural DNA. I think that music has like a connection right to
Yeah, it's
their
got like a
amygdala, or
direct
emotional control.
line, right? It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah, right, yeah. So yeah,
yeah,
so
yeah.
so I mean that's why musicals generally tend to be quite popular in that because they can really get you to the emotional place
Yeah.
easier, and maybe not easier, but quicker, kind of
No,
more
I understand
directly
that. I
than
understand that.
building up, right? So because the music can do it rather than just
No,
the
no,
situations or
conceptually, I
the
get
acting,
that.
right?
That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, and I think because as well, I mean, you think of any music that you like, right? Any music that is like your favorite, your band or your favorite song, whatever. When you first heard that song, maybe you had sort of some kind of a reaction to it, but it wasn't necessarily your favorite song or your favorite band right away. Usually music takes multiple listenings to become almost appreciative of it.
Oh, really? That's
Right? I
interesting.
mean,
Because I don't,
yeah,
that's not
at
my
least for me.
experience at all.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, exceptions aside, there are exceptions, but in
Mm,
general, for
mm,
me, music tends to be an immediate, like, fuck, I love this, or I don't like it.
okay, yeah.
And I
I
don't
find
care.
I find a lot. I find a lot of. I mean, like if it's in a genre that I like, I will immediately kind of sit up and listen more carefully or more closely. But generally speaking, to have like a band or a song or a specific movement that's I'd never heard before, I usually need to listen to it several times before I have like an emotional
Oh,
connection to
that's
it, before I
interesting.
get to the
Well,
point where
hang
like
on
I
now.
love this,
Just,
right?
just to make sure I
Yeah.
understand this, and I'm not being weird.
Mm.
I genuinely. So, are you saying that, let's say, for example, many, many, many songs or artists or that you
Mm.
love now,
Mm.
the first time you heard them, you didn't necessarily like them, or you were
Hmm.
indifferent to
Yeah, I would say that. I mean, even like for example, if it's an artist that I love
them.
and I've loved all their work, and then they have a new album, like, and if I listen to the new album, I'll listen to it and I'll like, okay, but I don't have a connection to it yet. I'm more sort of motivated to keep listening to it because I
Because you
know that
like,
I will
right,
like it and
right.
I like them. So, and then only through multiple listenings will like, okay, now I really love this and I can
Oh,
kind
that's
of,
interesting.
get a connection to it. So that's
Your
the way my
reaction to
experience
music
with
is
music
kind of
is.
a
So,
bit different from mine.
oh,
Even
okay.
though
Well, that's
I'm
interesting.
not
So
totally
mm,
unfamiliar with that. I
mm,
know what you mean. I've had
right.
examples of that, but
Mm,
that's more the exception than the rule in and it
Oh,
seems like
really?
it's more the
Okay.
rule than the exception for you. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so yeah. Okay. So that being the case, when I was, I think it also has a lot to do with your formative years, right? So
Yeah.
I know, I've heard somewhere recently that like whatever you liked when you were 13 tends to be what you still like, kind of thing, right? So I mean, I don't know if that's an exaggeration, but I mean, generally speaking, when you become sort of, uh, you know, independent thinking and you start
Yeah.
to choose your own things, not whatever your parents were listening to, then that tends to be kind of like what you kind of glam onto and continue liking those types of things, right?
Yeah. I think
Um,
that's probably true, unfortunately true, because I think
mm,
the majority of people are quite
mm,
lazy um, in
mm,
their
yes, I think that's true.
consumption
Yeah,
of
sure,
whatever.
sure.
It
Yeah, yeah.
doesn't have to be the case, but
Um, yeah, of
it is.
course. Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
think
it is.
generally it is though.
Yeah,
Yeah, and at
yeah,
least in popular music, right? So, and so I think it also depends on when and how you were sort of exposed to musicals in general, right?
okay,
And maybe you're yeah. So when I sort of entered high school, I joined the drama club, and that was sort of like my into making friends and coming out of my
mhm.
shell, and it was a whole long story that goes along that. But we did that through musicals, and it was
I
we
just for
always
people who
did
don't know,
musicals.
Ron,
Mm,
I
mm,
think, if correct me if I'm wrong,
mm,
drama and finding theatre and stuff,
mm.
a very important thing for you, right?
Important for me, yes, yeah.
Yeah,
Help me kind of like come out of my shell and
yeah,
become like a human, basically, right? So, and I was, paralyzingly shy, and so I joined the drama club and started to kind of, be able to communicate with others and make friends. So, but these were often through musicals, which I would never normally listen to. I mean, as you said, these are like songs that I would never kind of have any connection to normally. But
right.
because I was in them, then you sort of listen to them over and over again, and you start to have a connection to that and that sort of kind of music, those kind of show tunes
Yeah,
kind of idea,
yeah,
right? So I think in general, I'm more open to those types of
yes,
music, that type of
yeah,
music,
yeah,
because it was more of a formative for
yeah.
me. That being said, I will say that in this movie, I also found the music pretty boring, right?
Okay, well,
that but however, I'm more open to this type. I mean, I wouldn't say,
yes,
oh, I don't like this kind of
well,
music. I'm more open to listening to this kind of music,
yeah.
but I thought this music was quite kind of
Well, that brings me
unremarkable. So
to two things actually,
yeah,
though,
yeah, yeah.
I was wondering actually about this. So
Mm,
I totally understand what you're saying, and I'm
mm,
it's not something where I think like "Ooh," like I get that, and in a way I'm
mm,
envious of it because I haven't had this experience, and I'm not saying that this type of thing, like I said, whether
mm,
it's Gilbert Sullivan, Roger Hammerstein, etc. So
mm,
I'm not saying there's no value in it. I'm just saying that
mm.
yeah, I haven't had an experience, so I haven't really. I mean, there are things that I do like,
Right.
but I haven't.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the other thing was as well was as all that was I was watching this, and the main thing I was thinking the whole thing was, okay, I've been processing, I was thinking about this the whole time because the film's not really engaging me, so I'm thinking about all this stuff. So,
Mm,
but then I was thinking,
sure.
hang on, am I just actually maybe slightly overthinking this? And is this maybe actually just not a very good film? And then I was thinking, you're probably more primed to say that than I am, right? Because
Right.
you're
Yeah. Yeah.
more likely to appreciate any charm that it might have, which is going to go over
Sure.
my head. So I was thinking, in fact,
Right.
I might just be overthinking. Is Newsies just not like actually not that good? So I was
Mm.
curious.
So yeah, and so I mean, and just to finish off my point about that, which is that, like when I was in high school and I would sit and like sing, I'd listen like for just for fun. I'd listen to things like Oliver and,
Wow.
like The Roar of the Grease Paint, The Smell of the Crowd. I mean, I would just throw that on to listen to because thought it was fun because I had been in those shows and I had a connection to those types of
Yeah,
music.
I
And
get that.
and then generally speaking, I would watch musicals and I would have more of a connection to those types of music. But again, going back to my original point, which is that I would still need to listen to it multiple times to have any kind of emotional connection to that music specifically. So I'm wondering if maybe, because I know that this movie became popular through video rentals, that people would rent it and then just watch it multiple times, and through that multiple time watching, people had the experience similar to me, where
Right.
then they began to kind of love the music because it was always around and they could sing along to it and they really got appreciative to it. But considering it was my first time to watch it, just as it was yours, I didn't really have that connection that I have to even though I appreciate the genre, I didn't appreciate those particular songs. And I'm
Right.
wondering if I would eventually appreciate it more
If you need
had
to
I
live
had
with them
multiple
a bit
watchings,
longer.
if I
Right.
lived with it a little bit longer, right? So, but because that's my experience with music, but which may be also other people's as well. So, but generally speaking, I would say that I also was a little bit disengaged with it. I think it was a little bit. I mean, I appreciate kind of like big kind of big scope musicals, but it was a little bloated. It was a little bit Disneyfied, a little bit too much.
Yeah.
I have kind of a love hate relationship with Disney movies in general, but I think also it's another reason why I thought it would be good to do musicals because I think it's a genre we haven't really done that much about, and just talking about because music again is an important part of film scoring, but
Yeah.
it's this is more kind of forefronted, right? So yeah, so I mean, ultimately, I didn't really think it was that great of a movie. I didn't really enjoy it that much. I was probably around the same, probably not as probably. I don't know if you hated it, but yeah, I
No, no,
was sort
no.
of
I
like,
mean, you
you know,
mentioned
I
West Side
I
Story, for
lost.
example,
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
thought that was
yeah.
very apt because that was the thing I was when I was watching
Mm,
it. Obviously, it's New York City and it's street kids,
right.
so you can't help but make
Yeah,
the connection and
sure.
the epic quality of it. And I like
Mm,
West Side. I haven't seen it in a long time,
mm,
but the old one I haven't seen the new one. I might like that as well.
mm.
It's Spielberg, right? The new one. I haven't seen that one.
Yep. Hmm. Yeah.
Uh, but I remember liking, when you're a jet, you're a jet. There's
Yeah. You're a
sometimes
Jedi
when
all
that
the
stuff
way.
is done well,
Mm,
I it's a little bit sometimes like, as you know, I love kung fu films, right? And there's a
right.
similar connection sometimes where it's just pure like people doing things physically on screen, and it's balletic,
Mm,
and you don't need a plot, you don't need you're
sure.
just engaged in that, and it can just
Yeah.
mesmerize you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I can definitely appreciate musical. And when I was watching music, I wasn't just like, eh. I was like, oh, well, that's a shame. That's not like, because you've got all these people there.
Mm,
But like, I don't know, a lot of the dance moves and stuff, they were just like, they were very vanilla, and they weren't
mm,
taking advantage of their surroundings.
sure. Yeah.
And the thing is with Disney as well, people talk about Disney, but the thing is, people forget, I mean, Disney's never actually ever been afraid to go dark. There's some super
Mm,
dark
yeah.
Disney. Some stuff now that's
Sure.
released
Yeah.
on Disney Plus. I'm always surprised. Like that film's a Disney Plus. Like, they it doesn't mean have to mean
Mm,
saccharine and you
yeah.
know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So so
Well,
so
Bambi's
yeah. So
mom
it's
dying,
it's
right?
like I'm just thinking like, yeah, no, this film could have had a bit more grit to it, right? It could have had a bit more grit,
Mm,
a bit more imagination, and then it would have been, a much more into because it is an interesting kind of story, and
mm,
no one puts a foot. I can't say like I wouldn't say, oh, Christian Bale, he's terrible or anything like that. No one's bad. It's
yeah.
just I don't know. It's just yeah, it just doesn't rise to the
Mm.
occasion, and it's
Yeah.
very
I
difficult to
think.
say why not.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was trying to think about why it didn't really strike me too. And I was wondering if it's because again, I needed multiple viewings of this type of thing to really connect with it. And I think, I mean, you said that your experience of music is that you immediately have emotional connection to something that you like or that
Usually, yeah,
that connects with you in some way, right? And I think that generally speaking, it has a lot to do with the score or the music in musicals. As the more popular musicals tend to be ones that are just have better songs, right? And I think possibly that these songs were just not that good to the point where they don't have a strong emotional connection for those of you
yeah.
people like you who get it right away, right? So,
But
and again, for
that's
me, I didn't feel any emotions
no,
really. I didn't really care that much, right?
and they're
So,
totally interchangeable songs. I could, but
yes, it
I'll
was
tell you
not, yeah.
interesting, kind of
Mm,
interesting analogy story as
mm,
well. It's sometimes though you can just be so and you're just not plugged in. So you know that film, The Greatest Showman,
yeah.
which I've not seen actually. Have you seen it?
Mm,
Do you
yeah.
like that film?
Yeah, I liked it. Yeah, I went to the theater
Okay,
with my wife to see it. So yeah, it was it's fun. I haven't seen it. in a while, but
Okay.
since
And of
it
course
came out.
now
But
there's
yeah, but
sing-along screenings with that film. But
oh, okay, right, yeah,
but
sure.
but I've never seen it, but I remember one of the only film critic who I listen to on a weekly basis to talk about new releases in the UK, because
Mm-hmm.
I kind of understand where he's coming from, is a guy called Mark Kermode. And famously, when The Greatest Showman came out, he didn't much care for it, and he said something along the lines of there's not a there's no memorable tune in it, and then it
Mm-hmm.
immediately becomes this massive hit of this sing-along show,
Mm-hmm.
and he had the good grace at least to say, well, it's not for me, but
I was wrong.
I just
Sure.
I just didn't get I
Yeah.
was clearly wrong. I was clearly
Mm.
wrong. It
Yeah.
does have earworm
And
songs for some people.
yeah, there are definitely earworm songs in that, but I don't know. Again, maybe
Newsies,
maybe
no.
there's a lot of people like me who they were not earworms until you heard them a few times, right? Until they got put on YouTube and you
Could
listened to a
be.
few times, right?
Could
So
be.
yeah, so I mean, I know there's that one song, the "This Is Me" became really, really famous and became like I think now it's kind of like an anthem of the LGBTQ community, possibly.
In Newsies.
And no, the in
Oh, in The
Great
Greatest
Showman.
Showman. Ah,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So, and so yeah, I think so. I think again, I didn't hear that. I don't think I really connected that much with the music the first time, but then now after it's been played on YouTube several times and it has like it's in kind of pop culture, then you're like, oh, this song, and you can sing along with it immediately, kind of thing, right? So,
Well, I suppose
yeah, I don't know.
the
Yeah.
question, it begs the question then is, and I understand it's slightly
Mm,
unfair to compare seeing it when you're a teenager and you have a lot more time on
mm,
your hands, and as a
sure.
busy family man and person who
Right.
has to go to work now. But
Mm.
and do you think you're likely to, if not watch the film again, might you download the soundtrack and try it again, or are you fairly confident
Mm.
it's not for you?
I I think I might. I mean the only reason I didn't this week was because I was quite busy. But my at least my daughter is into musicals, so I might revisit it again with my
With
family and see
that's
what they
interesting.
think.
Yeah, get a
Yeah, yeah.
different
So
take
and see
on it.
a
Yeah.
different and see what they think. You know, I know my
What
daughter's really into that type of
what
thing, so she
kind
might
of
enjoy it.
musicals does she like? What are her favorites?
I don't know if she has like she knows enough to really be able to
Okay,
differentiate them yet. So I can't really answer that
okay,
yet. But
but she's in
um,
general
mm,
into musicals.
yeah, into musicals and stuff like that. So and you know, my wife is too, and my wife and I met doing a musical. My son has done some, and he's a teenager, so he's kind of like nah, about things, but he's done some musicals. So I'm considering maybe watching it with everybody and seeing what everyone thinks. I'm sure it must be on Disney Plus, right? So um,
I would assume, which is
so
of course where
yeah,
we
since
watched it totally
it's
legally as well.
right, of course, right? Yeah. So, yeah. So maybe I'll get back to you on an addendum to this, and if I watch it with the family
Yeah,
or
no,
whatever. But
it is
yeah,
interesting.
I don't.
I
But
mean, don't get me wrong. It's like
mm,
one of those, because we do this show, we commit
mm,
to the films, and like, don't get me wrong,
mm,
I'm not that fucking interested. Like, if Newsies had never entered my life, it's fine. I'm
yeah,
good. I can live without it.
sure.
But seeing as I did watch it and we are talking about it, I didn't
Mm,
hate it. I'm not a monster.
yeah.
Yeah, kind of little bit curious as to, because in general, yeah, like you said, it wasn't a hit when it was new, but it might have
Mm,
garnered a audience since and why, and that is kind of vaguely kind of interesting,
mm.
you know.
The also thing is that I didn't look into this too much about it, but I thought I saw somewhere that said that now that they've kind of put it on the Broadway stage, that they've actually redone the music. Is that possible? Am I wrong in
That
that?
makes sense to me. That
Which is
I can
possible,
imagine if the
which
songs
may
are a bit
have
more interesting.
yeah, yeah, with which I mean I'm not sure if I could be totally off base with that. I thought saw it read somewhere, but I don't know I have any facts about that. But I feel like maybe that because people kind of have revisited it many times over VCR, so that but I'm not sure if that's true because if people like the movie through repeated viewings, maybe they want those same songs. So I don't know if it's
I
the
don't know,
same or
but that
not.
would
So
make more sense. I mean, it does happen every now and again, right? When the
mm,
germ of the idea is good enough, but the music
mm,
isn't up to par, they kind of
right.
redo it and then it
Redo it, yeah.
works.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm not sure if maybe they have took some of the songs and maybe add some new ones, and which made me kind of like elevated the whole thing. So yeah, so I'm and probably quite impressive in scope on a Broadway stage too. So I mean, I'd like to see it on. I'd like to see the Broadway version of it, or like the stage version, but someday. But
Yeah,
um,
no, I wouldn't go that far.
yeah. Yeah, but generally speaking, it was a fine movie. I mean, again, it's about as nuanced as Strike was. I mean,
Yeah,
it's like
that's true. Yeah,
so it's
but
it's not
just to compare the
but
two, isn't it kind of quite interesting? 1924, almost 70 years later, apart from color and sound,
uh,
I mean, I wouldn't say Newsies was in any way more cinematically more dynamic than Strike, right? It's
mm,
quite
no, certainly
interesting to
not. No,
compare
yeah,
the
yeah.
two.
So I think you can see a direct line between the two of them anyway, right? So I
Yeah,
mean, in terms of just technically, it's lots of things happening, lots of things all over the place,
yeah.
so
Strike
getting
would have been a
involved.
more
So
cutting edge film than Newsies
mm,
was in its time.
sure,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
But still, it's
Um,
interesting to compare these things, how they just become, yeah, the norm.
mm. The
And
norm and the thing. Yeah. So yeah, but I mean, everyone was fine in the movie, and it was an okay movie. I did lose my. I think it was a little long. I found myself kind of
yeah, it
losing
was two
focus
hours, right? I think.
about the last. Yeah, the kind of the last half. I was kind of like, all right,
And a
let's get
couple
on
of the
with
songs
this.
are almost identical to my ears. Like I was like, didn't you
Yeah,
just already
yeah.
sing that?
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes it's a reprise, but like
Well, yeah,
maybe
yeah, that's
yeah,
true,
yeah.
that's
So
true. But
yeah,
no, no, there
but
was nothing that stood out. Even like objectively, I thought, oh,
mm,
that's a song that the kids would like, or like nothing.
mm,
It was all a bit, yeah. But anyway, I
yeah.
have to tell you, Ron, before we go,
Mm, mm,
sometimes we choose films that I think will be of interest and not, and you never know. Doesn't matter how many people watch this. I've really enjoyed this little chat today with you. I don't know why.
yeah.
There's
Me,
something
me
about
too.
this little pairing
Yeah.
that was kind of interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, because when I was watching Strike, I was like, well, I don't know what I'm going to say about this. And then I watched Newsy and I was like, "Oh, I don't know if I'm going to have much to say about this either.
You
But
never know.
anyway, it ended up being pretty good. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
How
hats off.
awesome we are.
Extra, extra, extra,
Extra,
extra. Read
extra.
all about
Read
it.
all about it.
We,
New
we,
season strike.
we,
Who'd have thought it?
this is Strike.
Podcast
Woo,
of the week. We suddenly get millions of views.
woo.